This video is sponsored by eufyMake. If you're like me, you love to 3D print and laser cut custom projects, but there's one big difference between them and what can be bought off the shelf. Color. Can I print on a flat surface? Yeah. Curved surface? Yeah. Bumpy like my remote control golf ball? Yeah. Damn, that is so cool. I know it's like a teeny robot lives inside. Yeah. All right, hang on, wait. What about a drone? That's a tricky one to scan, but I got you. All right, what if it doesn't fit in the machine? Like it's too big? Just make a sticker. Wait, you can just make stickers? Yeah, all right, hang on. What about a 3D textured full color surface? I thought you would never ask. I've got my hands on a soon to be released consumer grade UV printer, the eufyMake E1. Now my deal with them is that I can say anything that is factual about this machine, even if it isn't positive. Not only will I show you the awesome things that I have made,
this is definitely the coolest thing I've ever printed,
but also tell you what I have learned about using a UV printer for the first time over the past few weeks. And whilst a lot of the annoying maintenance has been automated, which is great, there are still safety considerations you should be aware of with toxic chemicals and fumes for humans and pets, as well as cost considerations in the operation and upkeep of a machine like this, such as proprietary ink. But we'll touch on why this seems to be normal with UV printers. The possibilities that this machine unlocks is incredible. Yeah, and if you pair it with a laser cutter or a 3D printer, oh, it's just beautiful. However, there is a project that I've been wanting to do that I could only pull off with this machine. And I hope to do it by the end of this video. I'm not going to beat around the bush. The standout feature is full color 3D texture. I took a photo of my dog Bruce and ran it through their 3D relief texture generator. They included some fridge magnets in the box, and so I printed him onto one of them. Oh my days, dude. It looks shiny and wet, but it's not because it's got the gloss coating. Look at his tongue and his teeth. That is full-blown 3D, bro. So how does it do that? Well, for this to happen, it comes with 6 ink cartridges in the box. The standout is white and gloss. Oh, it's got built-in handles, that's handy. That's cool, should be mess-free. Oh, that was satisfying as, big clunk. Each cartridge has 100 ml of UV ink, with a chip to ensure that you've installed it in the right slot. Oh, it's singing to me. As it prints, UV light triggers a photochemical reaction in the inks, meaning the inks change from a liquid to a solid when exposed to UV light. I've been trying to think what else exists on a home scale that could make this, because obviously a UV printer, industrial grade would, but they're out of our price range. On the full 3D scale, there is resin 3D printers. These have a tray of uncured resin and a UV light will cure layer by layer until you get a 3D object. But since it's been dunked in uncured resin, the print needs washing and then further curing before it's safe to touch with your hands. That would give you a 3D texture from resin, but it's a single color. On the complete 2D end of the scale, we've got home printers, and that inkjet head will drop dye ink that's to be absorbed by a 2D flat surface. What we have here is technically a 2.5D printer, and it's called 2.5D because each layer can only be as large as the previous layer. Once it goes smaller, it can't go larger, and it can stack these to a height of 5 millimeters. Now, we'll go over the resolution and fine details under the microscope in a moment, but the standout feature to remember is full color printing, and the resin is instantly cured, so I don't have to worry about accidentally touching liquid resin, which is really nice. What I'm most excited about is printing directly onto objects, like this phone case. Being transparent, you can see there's a layer of white, then a layer of color, and it was coated with gloss to help protect the colored ink. I'm most familiar with seeing UV printing on merchandise type objects, yeah, like a porcelain, coffee coaster, magnets, a wooden keychain, which is actually really great for that 3D effect. I haven't had great luck with bare metals, but if it's coated with a primer, like this drink bottle, then it works well. We'll get into the rotary system later because for now, I've got an idea. See, last month I was in Sydney visiting Microsoft, and that's a story for another day, but whilst I was there, I popped into the Sydney Lego store, and I noticed that you could customize a minifig. They had a UV printer set up in store, printing people's designs on the spot.
What? I have a frosted piece like this? I found another one. That's 2. Oh! 3!
Interestingly, when I was printing the first tile, the ones on the bottom cracked. I wonder if the UV light got focused into their edges. Either way, I ended up with a super cool miniature version of my desk dashboard. I was not expecting to ever have a miniature Lego version of my desk, but here we are. It's so cool, except we've only just scratched the surface of what this machine can do because a lot more boxes arrived.
I'm gonna need a whole house to fit all this stuff in. It's double-sided tape? I love double-sided tape. No way. Oh! Ah! Oh, that's so good. Oh, now I don't have to buy cases to test on. I can just use these.
Whilst it's nice to have blank objects to print directly onto, I'm interested in getting prints onto objects that don't fit in the machine.
Apparently this allows me to make stickers. I don't really know how. Oh, that opens up.
There is a first time for everything.
Remove the protective backing and then stick the A-film onto it, adhesive side up. Yeah, that's what threw me. Then stick the A-film adhesive plate onto the printer adhesive mat, aligning the positioning markers in the bottom right corner. Remove the protective backing from the A-film and start printing on the host. When printing is complete, manually tear off the A-film and the A-film adhesive mat, holding the non-glue edges, and feed them into the inlet. And out it comes. Right. Put this down, press, cut.
I love how vibrant the stickers are because it does a white layer and then the color on top. So it has a little bit of thickness to it. It would be good to see that white base layer optimized for uniformity because if you've got dots by themselves, you can see they've got a thinner border than those that are next to a large object. But it's really cool that only printed parts transfer with the stickers. Now remember, this is all with beta firmware. So the first batch of stickers I did had a section missing clear coat. And there are also some parts that were a bit patchy. But after a firmware update, I didn't notice any of those imperfections. So they're obviously working on the machine and getting it ready for launch. Now you might be thinking, how difficult was it to start printing? Before I can print anything, I have to connect this to my local network. Now there is a LAN port next to the power cable, so I could hardwire it, or they've given me an app which allows me to pair it to the Wi-Fi. Updated successfully. Sticky. Before you can print anything, it runs through an ink test sequence. I noticed that my blue had some horizontal gaps and the magenta a few too. So the printer ran a deep clean cycle and then printed another strip. I repeated this process about 6 times without much change until my contact told me that that was actually fine to start printing. But what I wasn't prepared for was the smell.
So with my laser cutter, it has like a distinct pipe that you need to ventilate the fumes that it creates and the dust outside. The eufyMake E1, however, has a built-in activated carbon filter. And with the window open in the studio and an air purifier set to turbo, I had headaches from the fumes in the room. Like, this thing stinks. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Like, my days does the resin smell. And I thought it got better with time, but I had someone come over today and they were like, just hit in the face with the smell. And they were like, what is that? And I was like, oh, maybe I just built a tolerance up to it. So what you would need to do is probably either put the entire unit inside a tent to vent out through a duct pipe, or apparently eufyMake are going to make their own ventilation air purifying system that will connect it to out a window. They do say that the VOCs, the volatile organic compounds, are at a safe level for humans. They've got external certification for that, as long as there's a window open for adequate ventilation. That doesn't include small animals though. So if you've got like a pet bird in the same room as this, then it might be an issue, especially because if you close the window, it still has the smell. And in winter, I'm not going to be leaving this window open all the time. It also won't print if the ambient temperature is below 15 degrees or above 35. So heading into winter, with this window open, it actually refused to print. So I had to run this small space heater to heat the room enough so that it would actually print. And you also have to wear these UV safety glasses if you'll be up close to protect your eyes from the light. And they have an optical density 4 rating on the lens, which is good to see. So all in all, you need to be aware that you have to have a window open, but if it's cold, you need to have heating for the window to be open. Otherwise, chuck it in enclosure, vent the fumes outside like you would a laser cutter, which is a fantastic companion to this machine.
Now you guys know that I love to laser engrave my own panels. And so to test the accuracy of the camera, I wanted to try and position color into an engraving.
Oh, did it work? Oh, nah, nah. I was like, it's gonna be really close, surely.
I ran a camera calibration again, where I print some markers for its scaling, and then I 3D printed a block with my logo recessed, and then aligned the same scale of logo in the software. Yeah, that ain't right. I realized there's a bug in the positioning of the print page, but if I use the canvas edit page, I got a much better result. As for laser etching, I increased the border of the graphics just a little bit to make it easier to align, and it was almost perfect, just a fraction of a millimeter to the right.
To get results that are better than this, I think I would make my own jig like the Sydney Lego store did. So I could just slot pieces in, type in the exact millimeters, and know it's going to hit the mark every time. But the camera is really useful for general positioning, like this IRL Minecraft cube. It didn't matter if I was half a mil off. To make this, I took some photos of the grass and rocks in my yard to create assets for the 6 sides. I then fed these images to that AI texture generator to create a 3D realistic surface. After 3D printing a cube from PLA filament, I then printed on each side, one after each other, with the UV ink, leaving a 3D texture, realistic looking Minecraft cube.
That came together so well. IRL Minecraft cube. My actual house.
Interestingly, as this was printing the top layer, I got a false error. It is running beta firmware after all. But that allowed me to see that it prints the white 3D layer and color texture all at once. We've got this angled ramp as it's going along. It's not doing one layer at a time and dropping the height as I thought it initially was. It really blows my mind at how easy this was to make. I was like, I'll just print on 6 sides. And the maintenance on this thing is also incredibly easy. It has this jet cleaning cartridge system. I'll use that graphic here because it's a great visual representation of the liquid running through the print head back into the cleaning cartridge, because every 30 minutes or so, it does a little clean. It moisturizes the head. It makes sure that it's not going to dry out and clog, because it's a big problem with UV printers. But also, if you don't print for 3 days, it will then purge all of the ink in the head down into the cleaning cartridge and put itself into this hibernation mode. That way, when you come back, you can then refill with ink. It takes about 15 minutes and then start printing again. So you may be better off printing something small every 3 days than having it dump into the cartridge, filling this up. If I hold my finger on the power button for a few seconds, it initiates that ink purging sequence. However, if the power goes out and it's not in that hibernated state, then you're risking having the ink clog up in the head because it's not able to do the moisturizing or purge after 3 days. So I would recommend getting a battery backup power station. I run my laser cutters and 3D printers off one. Very good for this in case you have prolonged power outages where you live.
Now they have a full maintenance kit for the hands-on upkeep. Every month, you're expected to clean the UV lamp surface, print head surroundings, flatbed, and print head station. Every year, you're expected to do the same, but also clean the X-axis rail and camera protection cover, then clean and lubricate the Y-axis guide rod and lead screw, as well as the standard flatbed guide rod. So just like most of my machines, there's a little bit of servicing required to keep it running.
This is like the #1 project that I want to do with this machine. When I was in Taiwan, I bought a set of blank ducky keycaps. This is my mechanical keyboard that has a full set on, but now I can finally print my own designs. There's a little face. The game is called Entropy Center. There's a little face. If this works out, that is like the coolest keycap I could have ever thought of.
The laser measurement struggled with the small keycap. Thankfully, the head pushed it out of the way and it didn't strike the inkjet module. And so I surrounded it with some of its friends of the same height. This is a great test because it can print on up to 2 millimeters of surface height variation. Oh, it's Astra on the keycap! Bro, that is so cool. Look at this up close. Now this machine can actually do round objects, but how does it print around the object, you may be thinking? With this, the rotary printing attachment, lip up that side and press. If I slide this, that extra wheel goes inside the lip. They also include this like spacer kit, which are magnetic. So if the bottle you have doesn't fit right, you can snap them on. To swap attachments, there's a lock switch. And once it's removed, you can actually see pins on the machine itself, which are the connection points for the motorized attachments. All right, is it gonna do it? Oh, okay. So this is auto measure. Bro, what's it gonna do? Oh, it found the handle because there's a little beam on the inside. With the laser measurements, the software calculates the dimensions of the cup. Now it doesn't have to be drinkware, it just needs to be a cylinder with flat edges that either go straight down or taper in towards the base. But I do love the software creates a 3D view of your graphic around the item that you've measured. And it's really cool to see it rotating whilst printing. Whoa, dude, this is so cool. My mate Brett, this is his RuneScape character. Problem is on this side, it's like a bit thin than it should be compared to this one. And I think it's because on that side, the handle's been lifted up and the wheels must have been slipping a bit. To fix this, I saw a suggestion of taping counterweights to the inside opposite the handle, as this is solid metal, quite heavy to lift. But in general, I reckon Brett is going to absolutely love this. What I want to know now is, how does it print on something that's tapered? Oh, it's doing it! Look at it go! It's tilting it automatically. Oh, so it hits the laser at the bottom. Oh my days, look at this. Dude, that's fully automatic. Did you just see that? That's so cool, man. That is so cool.
Okay, so my internet is currently down. Let's open up eufyMake Studio. You need to be online to access all tools and content. All tools. For the phone app, completely understand that could be a cloud-based method, but for the desktop software on a computer where you've got the power, why restrict it to cloud only?
Good news is they're working on an offline mode version of the software, which would be great for someone that takes the machine to a market and wants to print on the spot, and just for me that may just not want all my stuff going through a cloud server. I can see why they've gone through the cloud, because the app has a lot of AI-powered features, which are all server-side. eufyMake have stated that your projects are private, they don't use any of your images to train the models. However, in the future, there may be a tick box to let them do so, especially if you're making it accessible in the public marketplace, because there's a bunch of stuff there that you can just like grab that other people have made. Now, I love the AI image texture and relief generators. To me, that is a phenomenal tool. It's just enhancing my images or my own creations for that 3D depth map. However, the AI features utilize credits, so you need to pay a subscription if you want to utilize more cloud-based features than the free tier. Let me be very clear. None of the operational features of the machine are under subscription models. It's only cloud-based features. So AI generation and cloud storage, how many files you're storing on their server, which makes sense because AI uses a lot of electricity and someone's got to foot that bill. Dude, it's like 2 times my face printing bed.
Wish me luck. I'll peel it off.
This is definitely the coolest thing I've ever printed. This is like so dope. Oh, there's so many bubbles down here. Surely. Alright, let's go again. Oops. I put that back down pretty well, if I say so myself.
Okay, so a home printer inkjet head will drop little droplets of dye ink that gets absorbed by paper. This is acting kind of similar. If you look under the microscope here, on the white part of Bruce's chest, we have cyan, magenta, yellow, and black key dots. The white is obviously the built-up 3D layer. Now the E1's max resolution is 1440 by 720 dots per inch DPI. That's how printers work, right? If we have a look at his collar, we can see a much more dense knit of those dots. And at normal viewing distance, just like paper, you can't see the dots. It's like the screen that you're watching me on right now. If you went up really close, you would see the pixels, but from a viewing distance, you don't see them. What's really cool though, is if I was to try and print with a normal inkjet printer on 3D printed plastic, the dye ink runs. But since the UV light is instantly curing the resin ink, we don't have bleeding in the layer lines of 3D printed parts. Which is why I'm just like really stoked about this machine, because I can 3D print and then print directly onto it with the white resin and then do color and gloss to get really high details on 3D printed parts. The thing is, you can only use their brand of inks. Okay, I'm gonna pop a chair for this one. Proprietary inks means you can only buy replacement ink from eufyMake. It's got a little chip on the cartridge, and so you can only use their inks. Now, for home appliances in general, this is not great. If my home paper printer did this, wouldn't be happy. If a coffee grinder only grinded certain brands of beans, or my car only drove if I put a certain brand of tires on it, you'd be pretty annoyed. Everything that I've looked at says this is normal. Like Roland UV printers, they have chips and they only let you use their brand of inks because it means that it won't clog the head. And if the inkjet head clogs, then it's a very expensive process to swap it over. Another consideration is that the pigment in this ink is calibrated for this exact machine. So if you put ink made for a different machine through it, then it may come out looking incorrect. But I'm not an expert in UV machines. Do your own research. All I can say is that everything that I've read online says that mixing and matching inks from different manufacturers is a bad idea, but it does just mean that you've got to pay whatever price they sell this for. And with each of these modules being single use, you're definitely going to be paying for the plastic and the chip in the long run, which is why I'm excited to hear that they're going to create a high capacity continuous ink supply system. It's a modular ink solution designed to expand print capacity and reduce per use cost for frequent users. Hopefully then that's refillable and doesn't use as much like plastic housing.
Mate, this is crazy. Peeling the protective film from acrylic can create static electricity. Static electricity can actually push or pull drops of ink as they fall from the inkjet head, causing them not to land where they were meant to. My wife and I have these like floating ghosts. I learned that wiping acrylic with water helps release static, resulting in ink landing where it should. There's a lot more detailed, I like it. My TV remote looked like it had UV printing on it, so I figured I'd try and redo the fob for my car. Except I wanted the boot button to match the outline of my 350Z. I really loved this idea, but it took about 10 layers of white to cover up the previous logo, resulting in quite a thick print that cracked under my nail after pressing the button. I also did a 1 layer thick test print on some leather, but after moving it a lot, it also cracked and flaked off. But just because it can print on the object doesn't mean it's going to stick to it. I had to Google what UV printable materials were best. Apparently metals and glass are quite tricky. I tried a piece of aluminium extrusion and yeah, it was easily peeled off. There's a great video on YouTube I found from Don. He goes over the tips and tricks to get UV ink to stick to different materials. That's how I learned about the acrylic static issue. And I've also seen there's special UV sealants to help edges not be picked at or snagged.
Now, if I pop off the side of the machine, we can see two things. One, a custom cast metal frame, which is nice and rigid, but secondly, a little logo that says eufyMake on the motor. That's right, eufyMake is a rebrand of the 3D printer company eufyMake, which I personally backed on Kickstarter in 2022. At the time, their 3D printer was a first of its kind for the speeds it could do at its price point. But I, like many, have since moved to Bamboo Lab 3D printers, but I still have other Anker products. Eufy Security Camera, Eufy Tracker Tag, and the Anker Innovations logo is on these E1 boxes. However, I have seen community concern over the longevity of this new line of products, given the old line is no longer being made. All I can say is that my contact told me they are explicitly continuing to provide after-sales support, including parts and accessories, to ensure customers still get the most out of your 3D printer. And if we look in the new eufyMake Studio software, next to the E1 is a toggle to load up the 3D printing software. Now, does that mean that this will, in 3 years or even 10 years time, still have support? Well, no, there's no guarantee, but that's the thing with first generation innovations. You're getting it cheaper than anything else on the market because, well, no one else is doing this. And as for inks, I know if I was a company, the easiest thing to bundle up and sell would be inks forever. What are some improvements that I would like to see before launch? So firstly, the dual laser system. It's great for this massive bed, yeah, which actually, I don't know if I've showed you yet, it has a motor built in. That's how it moves the carriage forwards and back. But on the big bed, it can take up to 1.5 kilograms of weight, 420 by 330 millimeters on X and Y axes, and 100 millimeters on the height. The problem is it raises the bed until it trips the laser. It then moves forwards and back to see if there was any taller points, potentially damaging a tall object. A workaround is to place the tallest point in the dead center of the plate so it trips the lasers, but I would like a secondary slow scan option where it only raises the bed after scanning forwards and back. I'd also like to see the software upgraded to handle varying opacity. At the moment, anything that's transparent below 75% is just ignored. I also get little drips on my print surface, which seem to appear after a deep cleaning cycle has run. They've said a very small portion of beta testers have encountered this dripping from the head, but if they land and cure on an object, well, it can then ruin the piece.
I think I figured it out. See, I looked over footage and noticed that this squeegee that wipes the inkjet dry before each print, when it popped down, there was a little bit of liquid dripping. When the head moves out of the way, we can see the drip tray. When it runs the cleaning solution, this all drips down into here. And so after a deep clean, I may need to manually wipe away any buildup.
And given the toxicity of the chemicals, I'd like to see more specific and simple safety instructions. So on the front of the quick start guide, nowhere does it mention to wear gloves for these installs. And all the little hands in the graphics are just like normal hands. But on the back, in the fine print under hygiene and personal protection, it does say use protective gloves. Demo here, no gloves to install the ink, but the ink says you should wear gloves. And then for the jet clean, wait for it, wearing gloves. So I'm like, I don't understand. Which one do we follow? Maybe I should have been wearing gloves that whole time.
It's time for the ultimate project. I made this gaming handheld device design, but I wanted to take it a step further and design a custom depth map where black is 0% height and white is 100% height. So in the Eufy Studio software, I can upload it as a custom texture to generate a 3D design. That looks like it's it. That's done it. Yes, look at that. I just love how small the details are. Like those little buttons are a fraction of a millimeter. If there's anything this machine has made me want to do, it's an entire custom keycap set. Also printed Bruce on a keycap, but like his nose and teeth are quite pointy, so it's not great to press. Now, what are the consumables to keep this running? Well, there's obviously the ink, 3D designs choose through the white. I've had to swap one out, and I've also had to swap out a gloss because it coats all colors if you use a gloss print. It'll predict how much you're going to use for the parameters of each print, but I'm unsure the accuracy of this currently. They then give you a warning if the cartridge is under 10% and you're currently forced to swap that out for a new one. The Jet Clean cleaning cartridge may also fill up with ink before it's consumed all of the cleaning liquid. Normal regular use, I believe, is around 2 months. And with a 12-month warranty on the machine and only 3 months on the inkjet head itself, I would presume that if you're a power user, you would wear that head out within a year. You can, however, get a eufyCare plan, which extends the warranty of the inkjet head. And now I've come to the pricing. So firstly, who is this for? I would say like small businesses are a no-brainer, like an Etsy seller, someone customizing things. But I'm no expert in making money. I just like to make stuff myself for personal enjoyment and then share it with you on the internet. So I can't really comment on the profit margins in printing. So the eufyMake E1 UV printer with the standard and mini flatbed included is $2,500 US. The UV direct to film laminating machine to make stickers is an optional $400. The rotary machine with auto leveling is also an optional $400 US. To get 6 100ml inks and a 380ml cleaning cartridge is $300 US, and a single ink or single cleaning cartridge is $43 US. That UV ink price is on the higher side, but it is in line with Roland brand inks. However, there are brands like Mamaki that sell their 1 litre bottles for 198 Australian dollars, and you could even probably get it cheaper elsewhere around the world. However, that is for a machine that is 10 times the price. So unless you want to drop 40 grand on a machine to get cheaper inks, I'd presume most people would prefer to drop 4 grand on a machine and spend a bit more depending on how much you're printing. Now, it is currently running through a Kickstarter phase, so you can get them heavily reduced, and that also includes taxes and import duties in that price through the Kickstarter. And if I get given prices for the inkjet head and other consumable parts, they're on screen now. The Kickstarter is due to ship in July of 2025, which is like a month and a half from when this video goes live. And there is free shipping to some countries. If you're an Aussie like me, mate, it's gonna cost us. If you have any questions, reach out to eufyMake. I will try and look in the comments, but I'm gonna be turning my attention to my next project, which may kind of feature this machine. You'll just have to subscribe to catch it and like this video. If you enjoyed it, I spent a lot of time trying to pack all of the information that I wish I would know about this machine before buying it. Thank you for watching. Bye.
I wonder what my neighbors think when it's just like bright flash of UV light when this printer's curing just going out through the window at night.